Evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Skookum Session Bigfoot podcast. It's going to be episode 14. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fountain, joined by my faithful partners and co-hosts. We have Mr. Gary Spikes Jr., along with Mr. Shawn Wilson and Mr. Nathan Rudd. Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
Doing good. Doing good.
Just good or really good?
Really good.
We're here.
We're blessed, man. All things considered, blessed.
Right.
Oh.
Gary, what's up with you?
I'm sorry, guys. I'm just wore out. We've had
Been a long week.
outstanding number of shows this week. I can't believe it. It's all started with Nate keeping me up all night Friday night. 3 o'clock in the morning, we finally get done, and it's just been like staggering the rest of the week.
It has been, man. It's nuts, but it's all it's all worth it. We're getting our point out there, So yeah, kind of we last week, Shawn, we got into a really cool topic about how these things kind of they'll follow you. It's we hear it all the time. It's happened to all of us. We've been paced out of the woods by these things. And I just thought of something. When Corey comes on, we'll do the report thing as well. We'll wait for Corey for that. But anyway, yeah. So you can think of that in two aspects, right, Shawn? I mean, as far as do they follow? That's how I title it. Do they follow? Well, yeah, they follow. Okay, they'll follow you out of the woods. They'll follow you around the woods. For who knows? I mean, different reasons. Okay, it could be a different reason every time. Now, the second half of that, Gary, help me kind of explain this. We get we'll hear reports of our friend that we interviewed a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how far, Nate, was he away from home when he found that goof that was designed like his?
Oh,
and then it showed up at his house. The thing showed up at his house. How many miles was his research area from his house?
Right.
And he thinks they followed him there. It was like, 40 some miles?
Something like that.
Talking about Ridge? Yeah, it's 40 plus miles.
Yeah. So I've heard numerous people talk about that. So I don't know. I think that's we could kind of hit on that a little bit. I mean, what are your thoughts, guys? Shawn, let's start with you. I mean, you think they know when you're coming home, how you're getting home, which route you're taking, and know exactly how to follow you there?
I've listened to Scott Carpenter talk about that quite a bit, and Mark from Bigfoot Odyssey. What happened to him? Boy, that's a story. Shit. If anybody hasn't heard that, you need to check it out. Mark, I think not Bigfoot Odyssey. Kerry Arnold interviewed him on Bigfoot Odyssey. His channel is called he's on the trail.
Out of Florida.
They're down in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, his story, he went on a little vacation out of town, out in the woods somewhere, rented a little cabin, and he had one of these things come up and pin him down in his chair in mind speak and scared the living fuck out of him. It messed his head up bad, and I just feel so bad. Good thing though is he's back at it. He's back out there again. They're just not going to the swamp anymore. They're going other places because all of them had like weird paranormal stuff.
Yes.
Happening to them right after that. So this is going way into the woo shit. But man, I don't know. I don't think these people are all lying.
I don't either. You can tell when during that interview, Shawn, you could tell
he was
lying.
Yeah. He was losing his shit, and I felt so bad for him, and it just made me think, man, what the hell's going on?
Out of respect for his not wanting to say it, but there's more to that area that he went to. That area in that cabin is known for demonic activity. I mean, it's a very famous area for, the paranormal side of things. And I still don't want to give up that location because he didn't want to give up that location. But as soon as he described it, I knew which cabin he was talking about, being into the paranormal field like I am.
Yes.
Right.
So in that area, and that's also in the middle of a Seminole.
Oh my God.
Grounds. In defense of his situation, I think he was not only dealing with Sasquatch, and I'm glad you brought that up, Shawn, because we're going to get into that a little bit later into the show of what our theories are of what these things are doing. I think he was dealing with something a little bit darker.
I do too.
A combination with.
Well, he talked about something else that he saw, the cloaked figures that were hanging in the background
of his house and stuff. But once again, like Shawn mentioned, Scott Carpenter. Scott Carpenter talks about them following him miles to his house and coming right up in town. Well, the situation that I was telling y'all earlier, which we'll have on my show very soon, these things are right up in town. But there's also an accumulation of them and spiritual activity going on. So in saying that, that's the reason I wanted Shawn, I wanted you here. I say this jokingly, but it's kind of funny because Shawn is the one that kind of mediates me over to the spiritual side. That's the reason I call him my spiritual advisor. But I'm going to say this and then we'll go into that later. But we're finding that more of the folks that says that these things follow them a long distance to their house, outside of 5 or 10 miles, that it turns into more of a spiritual occurrence. And we'll come back into that later. But Nate, now we determined last week that they literally you figured that they had followed you down to your campsite, or maybe had already been there, right?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, Gary. I mean, like I said, when we showed up there, I did some knocks, right? So I don't know if they were just, we've been going there for 7 years and we never really had much happen there before that. And that was the last thing in the world I ever thought would happen. We're hunting and I do a few knocks on a tree and then, the next night things start happening. But I don't know if they were just passing through or if they're, I like we talked before, I think they cover a lot of ground in their territory. So maybe we just caught them on a bad day there. I don't know. And maybe the knocks I did, maybe I did a scream. It's been a few years ago. I can't remember exactly what I did. I just know, maybe I pissed them off somehow. I don't know. But I think they hung around there the whole time because we'd drive off for miles and go up in the mountains and hunt. We didn't really hunt around camp, even though that's a really remote spot. So if I had to guess, I would say that they hung around there, and because we'd pull back into camp and they'd knock, we'd hear another one, like they were signaling. I think, I've been over this a few times, but so I don't know. I think they were just hanging around in there and they were pissed off. We were the only hunters there that year. That's a weird deal because usually we'll see other hunters in there, but we'd had a couple burns 2 years in a row, big forest fires up there, burned a whole bunch of that area. So I think a lot of hunters were avoiding it on that area.
That area?
Well, it did. You can see burnt hills from our camp spot there. The mountains burnt. Oh yeah, we had terrible fires that a couple of years. And so I think guys just stayed away from there for that year, especially because that was the year right after the fires.
Okay.
And so, maybe that had something to do with them being there. I don't know. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And maybe that was kind of their little refuge area. And we came in and we're the only ones there for a week. Maybe we pissed them off, which it seems like we did.
Well, the other night when we was talking, my buddy that's, I call him my knocking guru because he does a lot of that. And like he said, as soon as you stepped out, you hit a challenge, and it's like, it makes you almost wonder that maybe that might be how different troops signal each other, when they come into an area or something like that.
Good point, Gary. I think we have to be careful, and I'm learning as I go here. I've had a lot of success, or we've had a lot of success with doing calls, getting callbacks, getting whoops and stuff. But I think you got to be careful because we don't know what certain calls, the tone of your call and all that. I do a scream that's kind of a blood curdling scream, and maybe that's not a good idea. I don't know.
Well, you could be saying, I want to come hop on your woman. You know what I mean?
Or vice versa, come hop on me.
Exactly. Yeah, you really don't know. You really don't know. But I'm guilty of it too, though. So, I mean, we all are. I mean, some one point or another, and we have no idea. What we're saying, and I'm convinced they can tell when it's a human.
Shawn, have you, with your hunting and the stuff that you do there in Nebraska, have you had any experiences personally where they was like following you around?
No, but I've had that hair on the back of my neck stand up, like something's watching me. Something is here.
Yeah.
More than once. The super quiet woods where there's bugs and birds and everything going off, and then all of a sudden it's just dead.
Yeah.
Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And other things like that, but I've never had one that I know paced me out. It's real sparse in there too. I mean, the tree lines it's not like forest. I'm hunting cornfields with trees in them.
Sure.
And I grew up in the Rocky Mountains hunting outside out in the rock, and I moved to Nebraska and I see a fucking Bigfoot. It's nuts.
Prime example of, in the Rocky
Mountains
that
they're here.
In the prime example in the Rocky Mountains, they have a lot more areas to hide in. Where you get out and where you're at, you're in a lot of farmlands, and where our farm is in farmlands too. They don't have a lot of places to hide. So I think that you would be able to see them. But so of all of us, it's kind of cool that we got two that hasn't directly had a correlation to them following you out. Where me and Jeremiah both, they followed me for over 3/4 of a mile.
Oh yeah,
and the two guys that I was with. So in saying that, I would say 50-50. If you took a panel of people has had that experience and people hasn't, but then you have the other side of it. Shawn, I was telling you about, I had heard through, I'm not for sure if it was Mr. Barry Webster that actually had it happen to him, or if he had just mentioned it, where the big one followed the folks out there in Nebraska, back up to the tribal stomp grounds from the river.
Oh,
so
wow.
we do know that happens. But then you have the other extreme of it, where folks are saying these things are following them 40-50 miles. Showing up at their house, and a lot of supernatural stuff is happening. Once again, I can understand them following you 5 to 10 miles, because they can cover, I guarantee they can go cross country faster than you can around the roads in a car. And I believe that they have the knowledge set that they recognize cars and they recognize the sounds of cars.
Oh, sure.
But when you go to the other extreme, I don't think that's Sasquatch.
I think it's another entity altogether, possibly.
Absolutely. This showing up at your house. We interviewed the dog man,
David Tracy,
and that happened to him. They actually came off the reservation, and you hear that a lot with dog men, but you also hear the maliceness of the dog men. To me, if they're following me 50 miles to my house, like Scott Carpenter's situation, and I'm not knocking the guy at all, because I know Scott and I respect Scott. To me, that shows a level of maliciousness to it.
Malevolence, maliciousness, absolutely.
Yeah.
What are they doing following 50 miles? I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I just had a thought. I just had a thought. What if these things are Nephilim or related to the Nephilim? They would be susceptible to having demons around them, maybe, or connected to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a haunted house, maybe, like they're attached to some of these things, and then you get involved in the Sasquatch, and maybe you get the attention of a demon. Now, this is just a thought I'm having.
Yeah.
And that follows you home, and demons can imitate anything, right? They'll imitate.
Absolutely.
Yes, they can.
So see where I'm going with this?
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because if they are Nephilim, or if they're, like Shawn likes to say, the bastard offspring of Nephilim,
right?
You know, they would have a close connection to demons.
Yeah. Well, let me throw it.
Right.
Go ahead.
In saying that, I totally agree with you. I've been having this discussion with people, of that, for that lack of better terms, that genre of belief for a while. Let me throw something more, even a little bit more practical, because you hear about them being around cemeteries, and you hear, being, it's like they're drawn to each other. But we as humans, let's go check out the haunted house. If these guys have a cognitive thought and have a sociological, as we would say, different standard than we do, would it not be possible that maybe they're not drawn to the same areas that we are? Because you hear about Bigfoot with like Devil's Ridge and Hell's Gate, and
absolutely,
ley lines and stuff like that. Maybe
that's a big one. Yeah.
Maybe they're spiritually inclined to go into the same areas. And then we do know that it even says it in the Bible that demons can possess any animal. And that leads right back around full circle to our ambient eye.
Yeah.
Red eye shine is very known for demon possessed hellhounds, and okay. If we do know that pigs can be possessed according to the Bible, we do know demons can possess pigs. I'm sure they could possess these guys too.
Absolutely.
So you could look at it in a dual correlation. Maybe you could look at it as the Nephilim, because I do. What's the word I'm looking for? Not invoke, but I do support that theory. But we also have a more practical theory too, that maybe they're just drawn into the areas that the orbs happen. Maybe they're drawn to the orbs. I've heard some people even say that they've seen them throw orbs. Well, show me physical evidence of that.
Yeah, I've heard people say
evidence of orbs in the areas that these guys are in. And I'm wondering if maybe it's like us, that they're just drawn to that area,
Yeah, because you guys have seen the video I got that one in that area. I didn't see him throw it, but
it was definitely there.
It was there, and back to what you were saying, Gary, the whole demonic thing. Both you correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, Shawn. You're more versed in this than I am. Supposedly, the Nephilim are the offspring of angels and human women.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
now, that's what I was just gonna ask. Was it you that told me that the other night?
It was one of us.
Somebody told me they also bred with
animals.
Different types of animals, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, which leads us to, people say I can't buy this whole dogman thing. Well, if in fact
it makes perfect sense.
It does, so.
And honestly, if you put it on a practical sense, I've been doing a lot of research of the Anunnaki and a lot of the Sumerian text and stuff like that. They would interpret. Is that me?
Don't know.
They would interpret things the way they would see them.
Yes.
So they would see the melding of two animal species. So it might not even be actual breeding, sexual breeding.
I see what you're saying.
It could be gene splicing. Extraterrestrial or something like that. But they would interpret it the way that they would see it, because they wouldn't know nothing about gene splicing.
Yeah. All the ancient cultures. The Egyptians, the Sumerians, like you were saying.
Look at Ra. Look at Anubis. Anubis was the quintessential dog man.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then when you roll into that, you roll right into cultural standards of these things following people around from the beginning of time. It's not a new standard of demonic entities following.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most prolific cases that I studied was they made a movie about it, but it was called The Entity, where the lady was getting sexually assaulted by it, and it followed her across 4 states.
Yes.
And it manifested itself in multiple patterns, from a child to a full-grown, male entity. I mean, who would we be to say that they wouldn't use a Sasquatch? I mean, I'm a true believer. Anybody
that's something that kind of correlates with that. I had when me and my brother were kids, I think I was 14, he was 9. And I had a friend who was 16. We went and bought a Ouija board and we're messing around with it. And that that night, shit got spooky. We actually got a phone call from a demon. So I'm messing with the Ouija board by myself, and it's just gibberish. We all do it. My fingers get pulled off the edge of the coffee table. The indicator hits the floor. The phone rings. My brother goes in the kitchen, picks it up. And all of a sudden, I just hear him screaming at the top of his lungs. I'm thinking somebody's sticking a knife in his gut. Yeah. I run into the kitchen and he's bawling. And he said, it said, because I don't want to, and laughed at me. And to this day, he won't talk about it, but that happened. And that particular fucking demon attached itself to me, followed me around for, I don't know how many years, and fucked with me and fucked with me and fucked with me. I mean, it would turn TVs over in my house. Pictures, I had poltergeist shit happening all the time for years, literally years, and it got in my head, and it used to fuck with my head constantly. So that, that shit's
cardinal
real.
Rule. You broke the first cardinal rule of Ouija boards. You broke contact with the indicator.
Well, I'm never touching one again. Hand. I don't want one in my house.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Anything around me ever.
That's the most common rule.
Chat. Yeah.
That's one of the most common rules with demons and Ouija boards is you never break contact until you release that demon. When you break physical contact, then you're inviting the demon in even more. But
yeah, and it's not pleasant, Shawn. You guys remember last summer when that incident happened to me? I had a pretty Nate before we knew each other, but no one believed me. I called both these guys and I said, I'm seeing a little, how did I word it, Gary? A little red-haired boy following me around.
Yeah.
It was red hair. Shawn's describing to me, and red hair, glasses, big evil grin. No one else in the house could see him except for me, and it was fucking in my head. I thought I was going insane.
You actually showed me pictures of that the 3-foot tall shadow.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. And Stacy, she called some mentors. Oh yeah, wait, but that was horrible. So Shawn, I know exactly what it feels like. Just a terrible, terrible feeling.
Man. Yeah, you feel like you're losing your mind because this stuff isn't supposed to be real. It's moving.
Right.
It's like Bigfoot. It's not supposed to be real. It's a myth.
So Nate, these guys were the only ones, my guys, the only ones I could turn to. No one believed. My wife obviously believed me, but she ended up, calling some mentors, and she did some things and got rid of it. But I've had little issues happen here and there, with it, and but yeah, it's still, I'm getting a little freaked out, but. Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to bring up is I remembered this when you guys started talking about Dogman. Now, in the beginning, it was a monkey. I saw a monkey. The woo was out the window. I didn't think about that shit at all. Dogman was a joke to me. That was all stupid. People are misidentifying Bigfoot, blah, blah, blah. Well, 2 years ago, I found a fucking dog footprint that big where I hunt. I remember I showed it to Tommy Cooper, and he's like, "Oh shit, you don't want those guys around." And even then, I was like, "It's got to be somebody's got a massive dog around here," and it just ran down. But the weird thing though is all my salt licks or mineral blocks disappeared that week. They were all gone. And I probably had 6 of them out on that property. Every single one of them was taken.
Weird.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, Shawn, because that leads right, that's just pulling us right back full circle into following you home. 90% of the reports that I've taken, in my personal opinion, of folks that these things has followed them multiple miles, not 5 or 10, but 50 or 60 miles. It directly correlates with supernatural activity, or it leads into it. one of the first things that we're taught with learning, once we start studying demonology, is demons will literally change their actions to your reactions.
Absolutely.
They ramp you up. They usually start out as like a young child spirit, or maybe like one of your ancestors. And
yes.
then as you start showing a little bit of reaction to that, then they'll ramp that up with the knocking on the walls, and as it correlates. But they can literally see into your psyche, and they can tell what you're afraid of, because the one demon that I seen actually portrayed itself as, in the last 4 or 5 years, Crystal even seen it as a Sasquatch. And we know that it was demonic because we had just done an investigation, and we knew that it had followed us home, because there's certain innuendos that you'll notice. Yeah. I believe that they could, a demon could start out as one thing and then change into the guy that I'm talking to in Louisiana. I told him today, I said, it could be one time it could be a Sasquatch, one time it could be a dog man, one time it could be a shadow figure. It could be anything. And with you talking about the Nephilim thing, there's a common rule that they say that these things are eventually going to be vessels for the Nephilim when the Nephilim are rejoined with back on this planet, because they say that the Nephilim cannot be destroyed. The souls are just left to walk the planet. If you read like in the Book of Enoch and everything, so they could portray themselves as anything. Now, go ahead.
Are they supposed to be okay? Is it angels in general? In women,
the way that I'm understanding it, and I'm by far not an expert, but the way that I'm understanding it is angels. There are fallen angels. Lucifer fell with a legion of angels. We do not know how many angels that was.
Right.
And then those angels took upon themselves to mate with the beast of the field and the ladies of the sons of God with daughters of man. Those children, see, Nephilim is there's actually another name called Rahim, and Nephilim is a wide variance of that. The Raphaim are the giants of the land, the sons and the daughters of the fallen angels. When they physically die, their souls are banned because they're literally in God's eyes, they're impure.
They are left here.
Yeah, they're an abomination. They are left here to walk the planet. And they say in the last days, of course, this is all speculative. I'm not a Buddhist. I mean, I don't even, I've studied the Bible, but in the last days, they will be reunited with either their physical body or a resemblance of that physical body, which could be, and once again, giants. How big is a Sasquatch?
Right.
But then there's other going theories too. But
so it wasn't the good angels that, you know what I'm saying?
No, they were fallen angels.
They were straight out fallen angels.
Yeah, because they were the bad guys that went down with Satan.
Okay. That's what I was wondering.
And the way
they were part of the original rebellion.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They were part of the original rebellion.
Well,
so like in the Bible,
he was not Satan at the time. He was actually Lucifer.
And then Michael sent.
Huh?
And then Michael is the archangel that actually sent him
from heaven. Yeah.
And
Michael will also be the archangel that cast him into the pit of the abyss. But
Right.
But once again, when we get into these things following us home, I almost wonder if it's not the physical rendition, and if it is, if it's not possessed, and then we have to lead back to the self-ambient red eyes. Of course, we don't know biologically what they can do. But any of us that's in the paranormal knows that that's one of the most prolific things of demon possession or demons period is the self-ambient red eyes.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Corey, you out there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me?
He's wondering what the hell we're talking about.
No, I was starting to get into it.
Corey's alley. This is why I wanted Corey to jump on here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's going on?
What's up?
What are your thoughts, bud?
I agree with all of it. That's kind of the theory I have on Bigfoot, honestly.
No, I didn't know that. Okay.
I'm not saying that it's true, because we don't know.
Yeah,
but if I had to lean towards a theory, that would be it for sure.
Okay.
It makes a lot of sense. with, some people claiming they have the special abilities.
Yeah.
That to me makes the most sense.
Right.
Especially if you believe in the Bible and stuff,
Sure. Yeah. I'm definitely open. I'm open to a lot of different theories, I think you gotta be. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting, to think about.
It'd be really great if we had Scott Carpenter on the show sometime.
Wouldn't that be great?
No.
Yeah, I got his book. I'm halfway through it, and it's
pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty eye opening. I mean,
well, what, Shawn? Why don't we all reach out to him? I have reached out to him before.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's a real busy guy. I've never had any luck with him getting back to me, but if maybe a couple of us reach out to him.
Yeah, I know Scott a little bit.
Yeah, I've talked to him. Yeah, I'll see. It'd be really cool. It'd be cool if he just did a little guest spot and just bullshitted for an hour or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. And another thought on the Nephilim thing is, I know Nate's mentioned it, but there's, and I don't know the specifics on the stories, but there have been people that have faith in God and have encountered these beings and have prayed. And am I on the right track, Nate?
Yeah, keep going.
And then that protects them, or they go away,
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, I prefer dealing with demons because they have to abide by law.
Yes, I agree.
I can call my wife in here and she can back it up. When we was getting triangulated on our farm, I got a little bit spooked and I was calling out to the name of God. It didn't slow them down a bit.
No.
So,
but like you said, demonic, something demonic, they have, like you said, there's rules involved.
They are governed by a set of laws.
Yeah.
And I wondered too if maybe they're watered down. Like if they have that demonic DNA, if over time they've been watered down to where, I mean, and it's possible they could have been chasing you, and at some point, I mean, they didn't get you. I feel like if they were chasing you, they could, if they really wanted to, they could have got you.
Well, and that's another thing too. At the time, I thought they were being aggressive, but as I've learned that they wasn't even being aggressive that night, they was just, tapping the side of the tent with acorns, and you could hear them triangulating us and stuff like that. So that's not equivalent to near as aggressive as what happened to, you Nate.
Yeah.
But once again, and maybe that's the reason they didn't respond to it, because they wasn't being aggressive. But in what research I've done, I've seen a lot of the biological Bigfoot. I guess we could address it that way. Maybe there's a biological Bigfoot and a spiritual.
I'm very open to that. Very, very open to that theory. Absolutely.
Maybe the biological Bigfoot is the spiritual Bigfoot. Maybe they're able to.
Could be.
Yeah. You guys,
I mean,
we don't
you guys
know.
are familiar with MK Davis, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's, from what I understand, I've never talked to him, but he's got some kind of a theory where down south he thinks they procreated with more of the natives and stuff, and that's where you get the differentiation in the bodies and the way they look, and some more look like a NBA player, and up here in the northwest they're giant, like the Patty with the giant shoulders, and kind of makes sense if they have and the Native Americans have those stories and legends where they've been stealing women over the hundreds of years, and if that happened, it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, there's going to be different variants of these things.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've thought the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't recognize Christ. Maybe they recognize a Native American.
Absolutely. That's definitely a possibility. Because I can tell you, the ones in the South, when I saw down there, look totally different than what I've dealt with up here. Totally different.
Well, in Florida, they look like giant orangutans.
They do.
Yeah.
Predominantly red, and
Yeah.
Yep.
And that would kind of explain the watered down, what we were just saying about them being watered down over the centuries. they've changed with human DNA and all that.
Yeah.
So,
and that would explain also why they would respond to, say, a certain language or a certain behavioral pattern,
right?
Or something like that.
In the Sierra Sounds, didn't they find a similarity to ancient Sumerian in some of the?
It was more Oriental. It was more Japanese sounding.
Asiatic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, guys, we could talk. This would lead us into. I mean, we don't even want to get into the Paracas skulls and that part of it. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
But it all ties together. You know, in the martial arts, they always taught us Jeremiah the circle. You know, the circle of life, yin and yang, the good and the bad, and it all loops back. You can't have one without the other.
You can't.
The more we delve into this, the more we find that this stuff, if you try to slide in a back door, it's looking at you in the face going, there's a little bit there, isn't there? And then you come around the front door and it's the same way.
Absolutely.
I like what Shawn said, you know, me being, I like thinking of the biological Bigfoot because that's the evidence that I've seen and known. But maybe these things are on the spiritual side, like the Native and First Nations people say, spiritual side and the physical side.
They could be both.
That's what I think.
Could be.
That would explain the you know, you've got a mile of trackway in the snow and then it abruptly stops and there's nothing else and there's nothing around them, nothing to jump on, nothing to climb out of. You know, for damn sure they didn't walk backwards through their tracks perfectly for that mile. But the trackway just disappears, you know, and you've got a 5-foot stride, like they're walking a tightrope with feet that big, and it just stops. You know, a lot of Bigfooters won't talk about that kind of shit, but it's all over the place. It happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's like
or just the one print, like just the single print or just 2 prints in an area. You know?
Well. Once again, I'm having to play devil's advocate on that, but I want to what Shawn was saying up. He said something a while back about, you know, maybe portal opens in one area and they have to traverse to the other area to find a portal because we all know that ley lines move and stuff. So that would explain that also. But once again, I think a lot of the track situations that we're coming across, and I have to lean towards that. You know, they see the one print. Well, I honestly believe that there's probably more sign there. It's just the lack of skill set to be able to ascertain that information. But it's like Shawn was saying, there's been Lauren Coleman, I think it was John Green that found the tracks in the snow that just went and then just disappeared. And they ended. Yeah, there's no way of explaining it unless he grew wings and flew. Maybe he farted and it lifted him off in a turbo space or something, you know. But we have to keep an open mind either way.
But I forget what Gary you mentioned, you know, or Shawn, that maybe, you know, they're spiritual and flesh and blood at the same time. I know the you know, my ancestors, the tribe that were, you know, my grandma was the Mohawks. That's their belief that they are both. They're in the spiritual. They can enter the spiritual realm when they want, and then they can be a flesh and blood creature when they want.
That's what I kind of lean towards at will. For sure.
Well, yeah. I know that rascal that I seen at 18 inches. He was full bone, blooded flesh and blood. And what he went through after that, I don't know. If I see one fading out, you know, I can understand them fading in and out of the forest. But if I see one walking out of a portal, I'm probably just going to roll on my back and do a dying cockroach and give it up because I'm, you know, honestly, I converted from Christianity, and I really haven't converted from Christianity. I believe that Jesus Christ was my savior, and I believe that he came to this earth to save us. But there were so many holes in what I've learned now about, you know, the Book of Enoch and all this other information and Sasquatch and demons and stuff that I've learned so much that the Bible just gives you allusions to it, you know, and the sect of Christianity that I came from just denied it outright. You know, a Bigfoot's a demon. Bigfoot's a demon. And you can see that in my mentality a little bit. But I had to go to Buddhism because Buddhism was the only religion that I could find outside of the First Nations beliefs that literally taught the Sasquatch, the Yeti, and acknowledge it. And
Hinduism does too, though, but doesn't.
Well, Buddhism and Hinduism. Buddhism is actually Hindu is in belief. I mean, it's Buddhism was developed out of India, out of Hinduism. But I mean, it's like they're Hinduism is the religious part of it. Buddhism is the way of life, the practice of it.
Yeah.
But they acknowledge it, and they, like my buddy from Nepal, he says they're a part of our life.
Yep.
I have a hard enough time dealing with what I seen physically. If I come to find out that rat's going to walk in and out of portals, or walks in my bedroom and looks at me from the foot of my bed, I'm just going to give it up. I'm going to say, Lord, take me home, because I don't want to be here no more.
I know they, my buddy from India talks about the one they call the Lowland Yeti, the Mande Baroon.
Yep.
There's the Yeti, and then the ones that live in the hot tropical jungle types, the Mande Baroon, and that's, like you said, Gary, they make that a part of their life. So maybe that's the way it is, spiritual and physical at the same time. Who knows?
With each one of us being researchers, we have our own personal experiences, and we have our own personal beliefs, but we also take in other people's experiences and their beliefs.
Absolutely.
And we as researchers, and I think Nate, I think you're the one that said it, or maybe it was Shawn, that you never throw out, no matter how far out it is, how far out in left field it sounds, you just take it and you put it in a different spot than you would, with the straight lace, because their interpretation of that has to have a knowledge base somewhere. There's got to be a basic. They didn't just make the shit up in their head. They either heard a story from somebody else, or they actually experienced the experience. And I can't throw out the spiritual side of it, and not at all.
I just had another thought, guys. You know how we say, like, when they know that you're aware of them and you know them, then you're going to have more experiences. That would kind of correlate with the spiritual side. Like, if there is some kind of a spiritual or demonic connection there, you know what I'm saying? You know where I'm going with this? So then,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Once again, I could play devil's advocate on that. But go ahead.
You could, but I see what you're saying. Yeah.
When we acknowledge their existence, when we know they're there, I've seen it happen in every one of y'all. I've seen it happen in me. We get curious, so we start looking. Yes. So we find more sign, for lack of better terms. We do research. We listen to stories. We say, I heard you've never heard a story about Bigfoot. I'm seeing it in my dad right now. He's consumed, so he listens to these stories, and somebody tells him, well, hey, they was wood knocking over here, and they was eating this over here. Well, you put that in the back of your head. Well, as you're traversing your terrain, for better, let's put it in a physical sense, or doing your investigations, you start looking for that sign. So what ends up happening is it's a never correlative stride forward. You start looking for more, so you start finding more. So they start acknowledging that, hey, these guys, I love how Patrick Vaughn puts it. He goes, they respect skill set. They see when you're going through the woods, you're looking at their sign, you're looking at their tree marks, you're looking for them. I believe that they was there the whole time at the same amount of, we've just never noticed them. What I'm saying?
They brought him on.
Shawn, how many times do you think you've been sitting in the woods and one be within 100 yards of you and you never know they're there?
No, probably, man.
I don't know. More than I'd like to. Honestly, I wish they didn't exist. I wish they wish it never happened. It wrecked my hunting. It destroyed
it not only wrecks your hunting, it wrecks
my peace.
Your core. Your core being.
Yeah, you question your sanity for a minute too.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, looking back, honestly, I can say that I've been spooked, had weird feelings, maybe been hit with infrasound a dozen times at least that I can think of. That solid, solid, like, just creeped out feelings. you know, but I always blew it off. Even when I was screamed at, I was screamed at way before I ever believed in Bigfoot at all. I tried to figure it out and justify it and listen to every sound I could, and I just couldn't come up with anything. So I blew it off. I put it in the back of my mind. I went back to the woods, you know. But now when I go to the woods and I know those guys are out there, my head's on a swivel.
Absolutely.
You know?
You put two and two together.
There you go.
Still gonna go hunting. I just carry a 10mm with me.
Shawn, you nailed it right there. I mean, I started thinking back, like I've been hunting for years too before I ever got into this. And I remember times just going in like a dark draw or certain areas where you're just like, man, I don't like it here. It's kind of spooky.
Yeah.
And that's just a simple thought, but it could have been, you know, our sixth sense or whatever.
Absolutely.
Saying, hey,
let me throw something in support of your theory. I take hundreds of reports. Matter of fact, I've got probably 100 emails right now I need to go through. Why does it 99% of the time, people that has multiple experiences with Sasquatch outside of the guys that spend the time in the woods also have a history with spiritual phenomena?
Yeah. Good call.
Prime example.
Yeah, no kidding. I didn't think about that.
All of us. Corey. There you go, Corey.
I know. Well, you too.
Speak up.
You too, man.
Yeah.
You think about it. I mean, there's so many different levels here, and that's the beauty of this. This is where I get so excited. You know, it scares me, but I get excited that there's so many different levels of this that we as a group bring together with different experiences, and then we get to talking, and it's like, ching.
Exactly.
Yep.
So true.
That's absolutely great. Great.
You told your story here about that.
We talking to me or Gary?
Corey.
Oh, cool.
What?
Sorry.
About what?
Well, Corey, you know, this is kind of up his alley because I don't know if I told you guys, but before we got into this subject, this field, we were into the paranormal pretty heavy. We lived in a haunted house for 10 years. I don't know if we mentioned.
You did.
Yeah. So Corey could tell you. Maybe we don't want to get into that now, but so you know, Corey,
get into it. This Oh, sorry.
No, I mean, if we got time, I mean, Corey, tell him your little story here.
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah, so I'll just start with my timeline. What's crazy is it was all validated in the end.
Mm-hmm.
What I do remember is when I was, I'd say 6 or 7 years old, I was sleeping in my room. So before that, I guess, I'd always have this weird feeling about our basement room, and I didn't know why. And we had a fridge in that room with pops and all that kind of stuff. and actually, I guess I found out later, I would tell my friends that I had over to not go in there. It's bad in there. And I don't even remember telling them that. But I do remember running in and out of there as fast as I could to get a pop or whatever I needed to get in that room. And what I later found out why it's probably partially my sixth sense, and then maybe some things that I didn't remember in my, other part of my mind. But I sat up in the middle of the night when I was 6 in my room, and my parents' room was across the hallway from my room. So if you looked out of the door, you could see into my parents' room. And I sat up, and there was a little girl looking outwards towards my parents' room, just standing there like she was in her own world. And it was like I'm looking at one of you guys, but that she was see-through. And I don't remember a whole lot about her besides she was wearing like a dress and had some type of pack on her back. And
wow.
I watched her for a long time. I probably watched her in shock for five minutes, I would say.
Wow.
And
that almost makes me keep going.
Yeah. And I didn't know what to do. I wasn't really scared like you would. Maybe I was like deep down, but I was more just in shock. Like, what's going on? And then I finally, got the courage because I was, kind of shocked. And I got the courage to go under the covers and just wait for a while, like my heart racing, And then I eventually looked to see if she was still there, and she wasn't. So I ran into my parents' room. That's like the main memory I have. I also remember loud bangs in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything in the kitchen fell. or something in the bathroom fell.
Now, let me ask you, and I don't mean to cut you off, but you say you heard things fall. Now, when you were to walk in there, would everything be out or would it nothing be touched?
Nothing. Nothing. And I also do remember when I had a friend stay over, and I think it was before I saw the little girl. We forgot our sleeping bags that were downstairs in that basement room, and I just, for some reason, I decided I wasn't going to be scared, and I ran in there and got the sleeping bags. I kept the lights off because I just wanted to be like, I'm not scared, you know. And I got upstairs, we got into our sleeping bags, and I looked into the sleeping bag, and there was a face that, like, and it freaking startled me so bad, like heart pounding out of my chest. It was almost like it was like, gotcha, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the extent of what I remember. And I have horrible dreams too in that house. Like, I was almost terrorized by bad dreams there. And I was with my grandpa, my dad's dad, and they were talking about ghosts. And this was after we had moved out. So I was like, I don't know, maybe 14 or something. And I brought it up to my grandpa. I was like, Grandpa, did you ever have any experiences in our old house? And I at this point, I still hadn't told my parents about anything. And he's like, yeah, there was a lady spirit there. Your dad saw her a dozen times. And I was held down in the basement room. And then he got really weird. Like, I was like, what? I was trying to ask him, kind of probe him. And he was so uncomfortable talking about it. He just kind of didn't want to talk about it. He's like, yeah, I was held down. He basically reverted it to go ask your dad about it.
Right. Level 2 interactive poltergeist.
That night I'm sitting with Nate at our new house, and I bring it up to him. And then come to find out, yeah, there was a lady there that he saw her a dozen times floating over my crib when I was little. And then she would float. He could tell you about that, but Nate was held down too. Just so it was all validated for me, like I wasn't crazy. But then why I was talking about the basement room and how I had that weird feeling about that room. I don't remember this, but when I was 2, I was playing in there and everyone was in the basement watching TV, and I came running out of there crying, pointing, saying there's a lady in there. Yeah. Like I was distraught about it. And my grandma, I'm talking to my grandma, and I had, like, you tell some of it, Dad. But it was just all validated, and I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. It was haunted. Yeah. You know.
So I'll wrap this up real quick, guys, since he brought this up. So I had these experiences too, and was held down, and I didn't want to tell my wife because she's super freaked out about this stuff, and I knew she'd want to move, and we couldn't afford to move. It was our first house. There's no way. So I didn't ever tell her. I hate to say that, but a few years later, my mom came to stay with us for, I don't know if a year or two, she stayed with us. And one day I got out of the shower, I was getting ready for work, and she was up and she said, Nate, can I talk to you for a minute? I'm like, yeah, okay. And she goes, I need to tell you something. And I'm like, okay, go ahead. And she goes, I think you have a ghost here in the house. And she was staying in that downstairs room. And I immediately go, I know we do, you know? So it wasn't just us, everyone was experiencing it, no one would talk to each other about it. Right. No one would share anything. Yeah. And so we started putting the pieces together. We weren't crazy, obviously. Right. So it's weird how people hold that stuff in, but there you go. That's our ghost haunted house story.
That's good. I mean, the little girl, Corey, I am starting to wonder if now the lady you were seeing over Corey's crib, what did she look like? Was she what kind of attire? The attire she was in, what was it? Older style?
It was a torso, just the torso.
Okay.
It was all white, like a dress, a torso of a dress, and flowing hair, like just kind of flowing in the wind, white hair. Now here's the thing. I can honestly say it freaks you out because you don't understand it. Yeah. Right. You're automatically kind of freaked out because you just don't understand it. But I never got like an evil feeling. I'm thinking, this is just my opinion, there might have been something bad there too, but this was like a guardian spirit. I'd wake up, like Corey said, I could see, we'd leave our doors open. His room was right across from ours. I could see him in his bed through our door into his door. And this lady would be floating over his bed or his crib, crib and then bed. And when I saw her and she saw that I saw her, she'd just float away, like disappear. And then I'd wake up out of a sleep and she'd be floating above our bed watching us. And the minute I opened my eyes, I could watch her float out of the room, right out of the room, So, and I never felt really terrified by that.
Right.
So I'm thinking maybe that was a guardian spirit watching over us. I could be wrong.
No,
and then all the other stuff, like the crashes, like Corey, we'd wake up. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, Jeremiah, guys. I mean, it was the loudest freaking crash, like freaking pots and pans going everywhere. And I thought, oh shit, there's someone in the house. I grabbed my gun there, and there's nothing out of place. And it had the bathroom too, because I knew what everything sounded like. Like there'd be a giant crash, like all the shampoo and everything fell in the tub. And I'd jump out of bed and run in there, and not a thing out of place.
Yeah.
So,
it's intense stuff to process.
And then Nate told it off in the basement room one day.
What's that?
When you told it off?
Oh yeah. So after all these, it was quite a few years that went on, and finally I was down
for a long time.
It went on a long time, yeah. And it was something that we just kind of lived with it. Like I said, I never really felt threatened evil, like an evil threat. But at some point I got sick of it. That downstairs room we've been talking about, it's kind of a spare bedroom. And so I used to keep all my work clothes down there, and I'd wake up in the morning. This is after my mom moved out, I was telling you about. I'd go in that room and get ready, get dressed and for work and stuff.
Right.
And I was getting dressed one morning, and that feeling of something's right behind you watching you and your hair standing up. That's what I got. And I turned around. I guess I was kind of at my breaking point with it. I turned around and I knew where it was. It was in the corner of the room. I can remember looking in this part of the room, and I said, I don't remember exactly what I said, but something to the effect of, get the F out of my house right now. You're not welcome here. I just told it off out loud. And it was it left, and that was it. It never came back, or we never had another experience.
A little bit of resistance.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
here's my thought on that. Did I scare off the guardian spirit? I don't know. I mean, I could kind of think back on that, like maybe that was, because we can't go on for hours on this thing. I know, but we track the people that live there now, and they're being terrorized in that same house.
Really?
I think it depends on who lives there and how strong they are and that kind of thing.
It does.
Not only that, let me throw something at you. It also depends on the reaction to the interaction.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. He's seen the face, and it scared him, and so it charges it a little bit. It shows up as a torso. The thing of the torso is it takes so much energy for them to cross over. It's not going to show the arms and legs, so that's not a scary thing. But the more you interact with it, the more it's going to try to interact with you. They're usually trying to tell a story, whether it's good or bad, or they're trying to stimulate you, whether it's good or bad. But once again, history of paranormal leads into Sasquatch.
Right. We got kind of sidetracked there.
Well, no, that's good. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Me as an investigator, I can't acknowledge demons without acknowledging that maybe a Sasquatch. I just don't want to.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. No, it all ties in. Yeah, it does. It does. And I think we've all over the last couple of years, we've all, Shawn, especially you and I, we were in the monkey camp for so long,
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, it was to me, it was a primate. It was
for the longest time.
Gigantopithecus.
It's
got to be something like that. They're just really stealthy and blah blah blah. But the more you get into it, the more you investigate, the more you're in the field, the more you see shit yourself, the more you hear shit from other people, the weirder it fucking gets. It's just an insane. It's insane.
It is. Absolutely.
And
a printer behind me here, and it just went off and scared the shit out of me. My daughter must be printing something.
I tell you another thing that's bad. You see that target behind me?
Yeah.
You ought to be doing this and have the lights down and be talking about Sasquatch and reliving the memory of it, looking in the window and seeing that thing.
Seeing that, yeah.
But the wife won't let me take it down. So I guess I'm stuck. Yeah, Shawn, you've expressed to me, in the past a little bit about, you've had encounters outside of Sasquatch, of the spiritual kind. And Jeremiah, of course, me and you, we don't need you don't need to tell me about your history because we walk it daily. We've known, we're both linked to your wife. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah. You were friends with her before you and I were friends.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually studied under the same people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I sometimes wonder, just saying that.
Yeah.
I would love, if I would have known then what I know now, I would have loved to sit down with Ed and Lorraine and ask them their thoughts on Sasquatch.
Oh yeah, me too.
That would have been an interesting conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just had a thought, I think one of the best arguments for these things being something extra than just a physical being or especially an animal is, my argument is, if they were just an animal or an ape, we would have hundreds of game cam pics of these things, because every animal on the planet, including humans, has been on a game cam pic, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that a simple argument for that?
I think so. I mean, every known big game mammal out there has been caught in one somewhere.
Gorillas and chimpanzees. I know they're putting game cams up in the jungles and getting gorillas on them and stuff.
Absolutely.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, and another one in saying that, I play both sides because I want to keep it. I want to exhaust all information from both. For both camps, for lack of better terms.
Sure.
But how are we having so many sightings of these things in some of these remote islands and some of the most remotest places on the planet? We literally have now had sightings on every continent and probably 90% of the islands out there.
Yep.
To me, it says something. I still want to keep what I seen was a physical being. I want to draw that line until I get some information, some unquestionable, information that they do merge, for the simple fact that I believe that there's so many people that are misidentifying different phenomenon and mixing it together and throwing it in this big pot and turning it up. And then when they dump it out, they got just a big old pile of gumbo,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to keep the information either way, because I have a big fear of what's going to happen in the future when some of these, for lack of better terms, hugging the Wookiee, or friendly forest people are going to get out here and get across with the wrong one. They're turning up into a 411 case.
Yeah.
I've got some very close friends that are in that camp, and they want to go out and embrace these things. Well, you might be embracing them all right. You might be their next Saturday night dinner,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not it's some of the things people do. Like,
you think about it. We've all been in the woods. We're all outdoorsmen.
Yeah.
I have to go back to this. We are not. That's probably the hardest thing for guys like us to deal with. We are not the alpha predator anymore.
No.
Even with a gun.
No.
I don't know we're the alpha predator.
Nope. Absolutely not. Even not counting Sasquatch. You know what I mean? Take the Sasquatch out of the picture, he's still not the alpha predator in the woods,
Well, yeah, but if we have the right equipment, we are. If we have the right equipment, we don't have tooth and fang. We have knowledge, and that's built as our weapons.
Right.
But with these things, what I've seen, folks, if these things are within 10 yards of you, you could put 20, 30 rounds in him and he's still going to come get you. And then he might fall dead on top of you.
Right.
I mean, folks, I shot a 800. He was an 800-pound brown at 25 yards with a 45-70 loaded to the max, and I put 3 rounds in him, and he'd stopped maybe 10 feet from me.
I was going to ask you how far he made it. How many?
Yeah, I don't talk about that much because it scares the living shit.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can freaking imagine, man. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that's the reason when people start talking 45-70s, I'm just kind of like, yeah, you keep your false ideas. I mean,
right.
There's guns out there that's on out compare them things by far. You know,
it's not. It's a big load, but it's not a screamer. It's got a lot. Yeah.
There's a screamer in the cabinet back there.
Yes, there is. Yes.
If I was going to go up against one of these guys, I'll be honest with you. If I didn't have a fully automatic 308 or something like that, I'll stick with my 338 because when I pop him, it's probably going to go through him, you know.
Yeah.
But
I'd feel comfortable with something like that. 340 Weatherby, 338 Win Mag, something like that.
12 gauge up close. If they're going to be within 10 yards, 12 gauge.
Absolutely.
But once again, what I seen, you'd be lucky to get enough rounds in him with a 12 gauge to keep him off of you because they can cover. If these guys can do 9-foot strides, easy. So 10 yards is 30 foot. So that's 3 steps.
Yeah.
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 And then he's got another 7 or 8 foot reach with a hand that's this big. He can literally just reach up and grab you by the head like this and go.
Absolutely. You know? I've always told you guys when that female looked at it, I had my 300 Weatherby over my shoulder, and when she saw it, she, like Shawn always says, man, she looked at me and I kind of, was reading what she was thinking and pretty much, go ahead and skin that smoke wagon, but I'll get to you.
See what happens to you.
I'll get to you first.
Do you guys remember that story? This just reminded me. Do you remember that story Kuhnbo used to tell about the hunter that saw one down? It was down below him, and he shot it and killed it, and another one off to the side
came up
and beheaded the guy. He ran all the way to the guy
and head up. It was in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Came up, ran up the hill. Yep. Yeah. Ran up the hill, kind of headlocked the guy, Gary, and just popped his
buddy witnessed it, right? Supposedly his buddy witnessed that.
Yes. Yes.
And told the story. Now I don't know if this is true, but
he was a professional gang guide. He was also the same guy was also on Sasquatch Chronicles. But
okay.
I've never heard that story.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look that one up.
The guy told him don't.
Hold on, real quick. I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah. Okay. Right, Nate. He told him not to shoot it.
Yeah, he said don't do it. Yeah,
do it.
I guess everything covered ground, just like Gary was saying, covered an amount of ground that would blow away so fast. And the other guy must have been a ways away from him, but
yeah.
So how'd they explain that death?
Oh, I think that always is a bear or something, isn't it? I mean, that's
pretty much. I mean, you know what the freaky part about it is when if you get your head popped off, Gary. Now you correct me if I'm wrong. But you get decapitated, say one of these things tears your head off. As long as you're
10 seconds.
About 30 seconds, right?
Well, they're saying 8 to, they see facial recognition in the eyes from 8 to 15 seconds. Yeah.
So if they start
car accidents and stuff, yeah.
So if they start to feed on
have blood in until the brain drains of the blood, because the pumping organism is here.
Right.
So they say literally if you're cauterized until it loses oxygen, it would stay alive.
Imagine that just sitting there with your head enough, watching them gnaw on your.
I mean, just saying it, just an allude for a show that's coming up. I actually reached out to Mr. Randy myself and talked to him a little bit, and these things are grabbing a 2,000-pound bull moose in the guillotine.
Yeah. That Shawn, we're talking about the Bruin. Remember, what an amazing encounter.
Amazing story, an amazing individual. Hey, wait until you hear his stories. Now, is he coming on here or on the trail?
We can have him. I'd love to have him back on the trail. You shot one? Yeah.
Well, I know you're talking about doing a show with him.
Well, I think we should have him back on the trail with this, with this group, and he the way I gotta spoil it a little bit, but would he remember Shawn? Correct me if I'm wrong. He said the moose. They went at it for a few minutes, right?
Yeah, and he was chasing that moose around.
Yeah,
it ran right past Randy, and this thing ran right past Randy too. Like he wasn't even there. Just
yeah. And then they got grappling the moose and the squatch, and they went at it a couple of minutes, and finally it came around the front of him. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it got positioned on him and grabbed the antlers. And I remember him describing the way it broke its neck. It was a weird way. It lifted and kind of popped. And remember, he said you could see the vertebrae wave. Every vertebrae in the back just snap.
Wow.
I mean, I'd have to listen to it again to get to hear it, but that was pretty much it. He watched a Sasquatch tear apart or break the neck of a 2,000-pound bull moose.
Where was this, Jeremiah?
Alberta.
Alberta, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
Yeah.
Well, and folks, here's the thing. I mean, Corey, I know you've seen the one across the road, but when you've seen them at there's no doubt in my mind when you've seen them at this distance, because literally you're talking shoulders. I mean, Nate, you're a big guy. I'm a big guy. You know, we've known, we're both in the 300 club. This thing is like this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But muscle.
Literally solid.
But muscle.
Solid.
We don't know the physical capabilities of these guys.
That's what I'd like to know. Take just the average man. How many times stronger is a fully mature male Sasquatch than the average man? I would love to know.
I bet 100.
Yeah. I would say I would have to probably freaking agree with you, if not more. I know that.
I'm telling you right now, knowing the strength of a bear.
Yeah.
I've seen evidence of bears hitting a moose or hitting a cow with one blow.
One blow.
Head.
Yeah.
And I believe that these things are probably stronger, have more lateral pressure if they're built like us.
Yeah.
And they're just
and able to grab, and just think about they can kind of having the same build, they can grapple around too, which makes it even more deadly.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it, the thing that I seen at that close, and knowing what I know now, he could have literally just reached in the window, reached down like this with his fingers and went and just crushed my head.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or drag me out the window and hold me like this and just reach up and just separate.
Separate. Absolutely.
Folks, the magnitude is it's all inspiring, but it's also creepy too, because
it is.
Like I said, we don't know how many times we've been in the woods and they could have reached out and patted us on the butt and kissed her ear and kissed her cheek, and we never know it.
That's the only promising thing is that they typically don't mess with people. They'll scare you out of the woods most of the time. And speaking about their strength, one of my main tree stands, I've got an oak tree right next to me. I'm in a cottonwood and there's a pin oak next to me. About 10 feet up, I've got a limb about like that with a twist break.
Ooh.
Twisted and snapped straight down. I've got pictures. I know I've sent them to you.
Wow.
Think about that, an oak. To take a limb that thick and do a twist break, you can see it's spiraled and it's hanging down.
You see all the fibers where it's been twisted.
Yeah. Shawn, I got one like that too. I know you guys already know this, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I haven't shared it, but we took when we went down and did that little tracking deal down there, and I'm kind of more skeptical than a lot of people, but I do got to say on that one, I marked that tree when we started in the trail, and when we came out, that way I could tell where that trail was, and that tree is every bit of 22 inches in diameter, and Dad went back 3 days later, and it was pushed over into another tree. And it was a big red oak.
Yep.
And that is the tree. And the reason I know it is that tree, because I said, Dad, you walk up to that tree. I haven't been back down there yet. I'm going this weekend.
Yep.
I said, you go up there and you look about 6 feet up, because I reached up there with my pocket knife and I always pop 3 rungs of bark in a pattern, 3 of the bark striations off, crick, and that's how I mark my trails. I do it on my right hand as I go in, and then I keep it on my left hand to come out. And he said, yeah, son, they're there. And he sent me pictures of it. But
that's wicked, man.
A 22-inch red oak it was not pushed over before.
Yeah.
And
that's incredible.
I don't want them there. I like how you said it, Shawn. That's my home. That's my property,
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like me. I got these damn X's all over the place.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about tiny ones. You've seen them. You take a 40 foot
freaking pine tree and lay him over.
That's been ripped out by the root ball. 2 of them and made into an axe.
I don't think the 6 of us could do it together. I don't think the 6 of us could have stood on.
And then you've got 10 of them in one spot. I mean, it's insane.
It's just like a tree in your camp, Nate. You couldn't have pulled that over with a Jeep.
No, I wouldn't think so. Not snap a face like that. Yeah.
No. It's just insane.
Yeah. I've got X's, but I've got more T's than anything.
Yeah.
They'll pick up in this one particular area. The farmers had cut down a bunch of trees on the edge of the field and pushed them in, and they picked these things up. So I mean, you can see saw marks. That this thing didn't fall out of another tree and just land laterally in another tree. These things are perpendicular to the ground and pulled and pushed into the crotch of another tree.
Almost balanced. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and centered and parallel with the ground. Yep. So some of them are in there so tight. There's one that's only about 8 feet up. You can jump onto it and hang on one side. I weigh 210, 215 pounds. And I can hang on this thing. It's jammed in there so tight.
What in nature is going to do that?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Nothing.
It ain't going to happen.
Ain't gonna happen.
Come down here too.
I took a buddy of mine down there trying to show him and get him to believe. And this guy actually leads my Bible study. He lives down there where I hunt. And he said, well, the farmers probably did it for posting material. They're gonna come back. And I said, well, what about that one that's 20 feet in the air, Mike? How did that happen?
Right.
That you can see where it was cut.
Yeah. What guy is going to be able to lift a 6 or an 8 inch log that's 8 feet tall up over the limbs of something else, or stick it up there and feed it through and pull it down? It's just not going to
happen.
Right.
No. Or
I got that shit everywhere. It's all over the place out there.
In here, and I've got them. They're jammed back in the root ball. I showed you guys the picture. That one tree that they pulled out, jammed it back in, and they tied the root ball into a knot.
Yeah. Think of the famous ones in Alaska. Those was 24 and 28 inch pines.
Those are incredible.
Flipped upside down and jammed back in.
Yeah.
It's so remote, you're not going to get a crane in there.
No. Plus you see evidence of machinery anyway.
Shawn, you saying that, I never thought about that, but I think I showed you all those pictures of the one that I call it the spot tree, where it was like 35 feet up, and there was a limb like this big around across in a T, 35 feet up. Well, there was no limbs above it that could have justified it falling down.
Right.
I never even thought about that, but we get a lot of those T structures.
Yeah.
It's just,
I got them all over the place. I got blinds too. You can see I think they build blinds and hide in them.
Yep. Glad it's out.
But so in saying that, here we go again. In saying that, if they can cloak and if they can walk through portals, why do they need to do that?
Save energy.
Good response. Very good response. It could be. Yeah. Or maybe
it wears them out. Maybe they gotta expend calories to do it. I don't know.
Or maybe they can only do it around ley lines or something.
It's gotta be something.
But once again, it's like you see so much natural biomechanical phenomena along with the supernatural phenomena. It's like, where do you find the balancing point? It's like,
well, and it's like our sixth sense too. Some people can develop and harness that and have psychic abilities, and maybe these guys, it takes time and they have to be trained or practice or whatever before they're able to they're able to hone their skills like that. And until then they're physical. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that's a good point, because maybe you could almost put all that stuff on the spiritual end too, in a way. But the natives had stuff like that. Gary, they break something a certain way, water source. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
yeah, as a semblance of a respect, or as I see what you're saying.
Respect, and so that could fall into that category as well. I mean, not as that in depth as what we were talking about before, but in a way, in a way.
Jeremiah, I was just thinking there's probably some of our former colleagues that are going to be watching this video, and they're going to be thinking we're off our fucking rocker.
Oh, without a doubt, and I love it.
Yeah, we're on a roll tonight, aren't we?
What happened to those guys? They were fucking. They were right on track, and now they're nuts.
Yeah.
Hey, we're just throwing ideas out there. It doesn't mean we believe everything. We're just bouncing stuff off each other. And
they're still going to think me and John have lost it.
Well, the whole thing is, and that's one thing that just drives me nuts. None of us are experts. None of us are that. We don't know where we're coming from these guys. I have a tendency to want to lean towards the biological side, and that's where it's fun to have these kind of conversations, but I'll be the first one to say I can't believe in the paranormal and blow it out of my mind for these guys.
And that's my thing about so
I guess I can say without a doubt I 100% know that these animals are out there. I 100% don't know what they are, but I would love for them to be monkeys, and if they are, I'll be tickled fucking pink.
Right?
I like how you put it, Shawn. I honestly wish I could go back in time and not win on that trip and not know that they're out there, because it has dramatically declined my business. Me teaching the survival. I mean, I have a hard time going out in the woods where I know it's safe. I have a hard time going out into a park with a pocket knife. I mean, I hate to put it that way. I used to run around. You know how many times I ran around Colorado in the Upward Bound pocket program with literally a Swiss Army knife, and a stick.
You wouldn't do that now, would you?
You did that in Colorado?
Hell no. Huh?
You did Outward Bound in Colorado?
I was an instructor there for about 5 years as a teenager. But I did it from I did it at 12. I did it at 13. Then I became an instructor 14, 15, and 16, and then I joined the military. Yeah.
What year were you there?
90. I was there from 92 to 91 to 94.
Jesus Christ, you might know my brother. He was there. He broke his leg. I'll have to ask him what. Yeah, he broke his leg doing Outward Bound. He had to come home.
But I guarantee you, there's not a lot of people
around the same time.
That is cool. Folks, if it's is it still going?
I don't know, but I remember my brother going out.
The greatest thing you can do for a young man or a young lady growing up is put them in the Outward Bound program, because it builds so much confidence and so much skill set. Sure. I mean, they literally at 12 and 13 years old, they teach you for, when I was doing it was 30 days. And then they give you a map, a compass, and a canteen and a pocket knife and some fishing line, and send you off up in the mountains and say, you got to be over here in 3 days.
Yep.
Wow.
What they don't tell you though is the instructors.
They're on you, aren't they?
Yeah. When I found that out, I did it for like 3 years, and then when I became an instructor and they sent me up, I was like, oh, you sons of bitches. You talk about, a 12-year-old boy up in north of Silverton, Colorado, and you see a black bear and it's like, oh my God, I've got a pocket knife, But once again, if I knew then what I know now, there ain't no telling big old Sasquatch probably following me around going, should I eat him now or wait until later?
That's funny.
And probably Mama Sasquatch, like, you leave him alone. Don't go messing with him.
Yeah, leave him alone. Leave him alone.
My brother's never listened to my show, any of these shows. I'm going to have him listen to this one.
Yeah.
Get a kick out of this.
This has been a great show, man.
This has been a good one, guys. About that time.
We didn't hold back on this one, did we?
I got to go eat something.
Me too. Shawn, get with your brother, man. I'd love to find out hell, I'd love to just sit down and talk to him.
I'll find out when he was there. For sure. He texted me when you heard the text notification earlier. Yeah. That was him. He was asking me how he can listen to our show, and we should probably.
You send him the link.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Shawn, I do the outdoorsman stuff on my show. We ought to have you and him come on and let's talk about Outward Bound.
That'd be cool.
That's a great program. God, I love that program. That changed my life forever. It just taught me so much, and it built such a confidence level that people just don't understand. Any child should go through something like that.
I agree. Yeah,
and our society's going the other direction. That's the sad part.
Right? Yeah. Right now we're heading into the toilet, so we need more Outward Bound stuff.
Yeah,
I agree. Shawn, you got to do me a favor. Next time we're on, remember when I interviewed you I think the second time, right when you came on to the show with me last year, you told me about your other encounter in Colorado with something else.
Oh yeah.
Will you tell them that at some point?
Yeah. Well, I
think it's
absolutely. What are they called again? I can't remember.
Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds. Yeah, I saw Thunderbird.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. What would you say was the wingspan on it?
Oh fuck, I don't know. 30 feet. It was huge.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was a glider, but it looked like a hawk. And it just went gliding right over the top of me. And I can't remember where in the mountains we were. I'll figure that out. It was my mom's boyfriend's parents' cabin. And I went hiking up behind, and this thing just swooped down right over the top of me and just glided away. It was crazy.
It's funny. You mentioned
you don't have gliders out there. There's no gliders in the mountains.
And
where are they going to land?
Exactly. I don't know if I told you this, but Stacy and I saw something odd like that in North Carolina. It wasn't quite as big as that one would have been, but this one kind of looked like a condor, and we don't have condors here. And I would have to say the wingspan was at least 15 feet.
Oh yeah,
but it glid. It didn't flap at all. It flapped.
Well, when you get at that level, they don't have to. I mean, look at it. Look at the condor.
I can believe
it. Could a Nephilim breed with a bird? How the hell would that work? They'd split it in half.
Mothman.
Well, I mean, who says that they was actually having intercourse? It could have been genetic splicing or something, Yeah. But I do got to bring up Outward Bound is still going.
Oh, good,
cool.
And the prices are pretty dramatic. 15-day, or here's a 22-day for an adult, $6,000.
Good God.
The course that I went through was the high school in the Rockies. They're not offering it for the high school. That's all south. But you can do rappelling, snowshoeing, snow sledding, service, dog sledding, kayaking,
backpacking. That's cool stuff. Yeah.
But they've got a 22-day course for young men or young ladies. 15 to 24 days for a high school student is $4,000 to $6,000. And folks, if anybody's listening to this and you do have the money for any child, it's worth every penny. It's worth every penny. Of course, I don't know what their instructors are like now, but it literally is a life-changing course. Thank you. I did not. I'm glad you brought that up, Shawn, because they're still going. That's cool. That's cool.
Speaking of weird birds, me and my buddy, I was partying in high school, and it was actually down the road from the house we're in right now. I saw, I don't know what the hell it was. It wasn't a bat. It was way too big to be a bat, but it was hairless like a bat.
Oh wow!
And we both looked at each other like, "What the hell was that, dude?"
Yeah, you hear reports of the some like that and some like the one Shawn and I saw. And
it was odd enough for us to both look at each other. Like if it was a bat, we wouldn't have said anything, right?
Right.
I mean, this thing was
how big
but no hair.
Yeah, how big was it?
Maybe a big owl size or something like that. It's hard.
Well,
to
we
say.
do have bats. We've got fruit bats up here now that are big.
But we don't. I don't think up where we are. We have little
True.
bats.
I know those flying foxes, right, Gary? They get pretty damn big.
Yeah, they'll get 4 to 6 foot, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to get somebody like Dan Strelio in here that's a biologist.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, it was weird. You could see the veins in
Well,
its wings. You know.
Hey,
I mean, you could
take note of that. Was that in the daytime then or night, Corey?
Oh, night. We were
Nighttime?
drinking and stuff.
So
Yeah.
like, you could see it in the moonlight or something?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
We were going up to.
You can see it at night. Like, I mean, it was big. It was
big, really big. I mean, you
Yeah.
could see it in the headlights of the car. Obviously, you could see.
Oh.
That's why I could see the veins in its wings. You know,
Well,
but
so
it was huge. It was just so
it'd be
bizarre.
bigger than you thought.
Okay, folks, here we go.
Yeah.
Listen to this. The great mastiff bat, Impus puritus, is the largest bat in the United States. They can be easily identified by their large ears that extend out over their nose. Let me get a wingspan on them.
Oh, are they up in the northwest though, Gary?
That's where I'm clicking on them right now. My phone's running slow.
You're strictly vegetarian, right?
Okay. The greater mastiff bat is the largest bat in the United States. They can easily be identified by large ears, which is over their wings. It has a short brown gray fur. I don't care about all that. It has paler fur on the other side of its wings. Habitat. Must have large open area with roost sites. Because of their large size, they need at least 20 feet vertical of drop of roost to be able to get them. Range. These bats are found from central California into the midst of Arizona, some into Texas and New Mexico. So they wouldn't be on up there.
Well, that we know of anyways. Yeah.
It was weird, dude. I mean, it was not normal, whatever it was.
Okay, wingspan 20 to 23 inches.
It's a couple feet. Yeah.
Interesting.
But you're saying it was a lot. What you saw was a lot bigger, Corey.
It was big.
Yeah.
It was like, what the hell, dude? That had no hair. I mean, it was just
Right.
the weirdest thing ever.
It's interesting, man. Interesting.
My buddy would tell you the same thing, man. We were both just like,
Pterodactyl.
what the hell was that, dude?
Yeah. Territory, maybe. I mean, yeah. It's some interesting stuff.
Have you guys seen the South Park episode where Randy brings back coronavirus from China because him and Mickey Mouse fuck a bat?
What?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to edit this out.
No, you got to leave it in, and everybody should go watch it. You will laugh until you piss your pants. It's the funniest thing.
Man.
It's the funniest thing in the world. I swear to God, you got to see it.
Oh my God, that was great.
Go to South Park, find it. Find the episode
God.
where Randy brings back coronavirus. It's his fault.
They need to do a South Park about Sasquatch. And they could do all that shit with
They
that.
probably should.
You should let us design the whole thing.
Well,
Let us put
great.
it together.
Jeremiah, we'll have to save our reports for the next show, huh?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Give us a chance to rock up another one too.
Yeah.
But get a good top
note. I'm going to jump off of here, folks.
Yeah, I got to with you guys. But
you guys have a good night.
Pleasure, guys, as always.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
Great show.
Hey, thanks for everything tonight, guys. You helped me get through it. I had a rotten day. I had a great night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Good to see you guys.
All right. Have a good evening.
See you guys.